Hello and welcome to episode 102 of From Impossible to Inevitable. I am your host, Megan Bauer. Thank you so much for joining me today and pushing play on today's episode. As we enter this final chapter of 2024 and enter into this reflective mode on this year that we have had, I invite you to reflect on one more thing. I know you already have a long list of things you have to do for the holidays, for family, for wrapping up stuff, school events. This is a busy time of year, no doubt. However, adding this topic to your time of reflection is valuable. It is so valuable. And before I jump into that, I want to lead in with a little personal experience that I had in the last 4 weeks. I was in a social situation, and although I was among friends, not super good friends, but friends, people I know by name, people that I ask after their families and their weekends and what have you. I was among friends. I felt like an outsider. I felt like I didn't belong. And as everybody, except for me, I guess, was having a conversation, and I found myself with nothing to contribute because I didn't do the things that they do. I don't make the same choices that they make. And at least we do make some of the same choices. That's why we're friends. But in these situations, for this time that we were together, I had very little to contribute because I live a little differently than them. And this feeling of being an outsider and of not quite fitting in, being similar but not the same, has been a running theme in my life. It's something I am very aware of. And it's just something, it's part of my existence, it seems. So I went home feeling a little discouraged by this experience that I just spent, these couple of hours with these very nice people and didn't feel like I fit in. I didn't feel like I was part of the group. Nobody really likes that feeling. Even as much as I have experienced this in my life, it is not a feeling I particularly enjoy. I like feeling that, yeah, we're all in this together. I got you. I understand you. But instead, I was in this place of, I don't understand you, and I'm going to keep my mouth shut because I don't think you're going to understand me either. And if I just sit here quietly with a smile on my face, maybe you will feel like I belong here, even though I know that I don't. I'm not saying that I didn't belong. It's just when that night, those topics of conversation, I make different choices. Not saying that mine are better than theirs. There's no judgment, no whatever. It's all about relatability. I couldn't relate. I was different. I felt that way. So I came home. I felt really down about it. And Jake asked me, how was it? How was your evening? And I was like, nah, it's okay. And he was like, what happened? And I told him, I was like, I didn't fit in. Again, this is a theme in my life. This was not news to Jake. And he was like, okay, well, what did everybody talk about? And I told him the highlights, these things. And he's like, yeah, you don't fit in with that. And he's like, but you did that on purpose. Not, to be clear, that I made different choices to be contrary. I made different choices because I'm following my own preferences. I'm following what I want. I just don't want what that crowd specifically on those topics wants. And so that made me pause and reflect for a minute because I was like, yeah, I did make these deliberate choices that set me apart. For example, one of the topics of conversation, which is a very common one, is what's on TV? What's new on Netflix? The new seasons of whatever that I don't watch. I don't watch TV. I don't watch Netflix. If it was up to me, we would not have any Netflix subscriptions or Disney Plus or any of that stuff. I don't use it. I don't want it. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. It's not for me. And so it's a deliberate choice for me to be not in the know about whatever is showing, because that's not, I don't like it. And so when I'm in a group and they spend 15, 20, 25 minutes talking about whatever shows, I truly have nothing to contribute. And I'm not going to jump in and say something like, yeah, I don't watch TV. Instead, I go to bed early because I get up early, which I know you guys also don't do, because I don't want to go on this, like, that's not the point. It's just, I don't have that relatability on certain topics. And it's nothing about better or worse. It's not. It's about preferences. And so here's what I want you to consider. I want you to consider what things in your life are default settings. What are things that you do because everybody else does it? What are things that you do because that's what it was like when you were growing up? That's how you were raised. Mom and dad did it, so you do it too. What are those things? Those things that just come as default. And you're just like, oh, I never even considered there was a different way to do these things. I never even considered that you could spend your evenings in a way different than Netflix. I never even considered that. Fill in the blank. Because these default settings, if they're not your true preferences, if they're not what you really want, how you really want to live, they're not actually serving you. Isn't that interesting? I am much happier being a little different and not relating in certain situations, because those are just moments. In the grand scheme of my life, those are just moments. Whereas living without TV or without some other things that they choose is so much better in the long run. And I'm so much happier in the long run, living based off of my own preferences, living based off of my own desires. Getting up early is another one that people can't relate to. Sometimes they think, oh, I could never do that. They shut it down immediately. And I'm like, yeah, I was like that too. I was totally like that. It took me years to be able to get up early and get up early on a daily basis. It took me years to be able to get here to this habit that I'm so excited to have. Yet it's another thing that makes me different. That's just part of it. That's part of it. And that's okay. That's okay, because my days run so much smoother and so much better because of my new early morning habit. And that's okay that that makes me a little different. Like I said, this is a running theme in my life. So as you identify the default settings that you are running your life by, that you're living by, that maybe don't serve you, as you examine these things, know that changing them will cause you to feel different. It will cause you to feel a little bit like an outsider. If you decide to make dietary changes or, exercise changes, people are going to be like, you've never done that before. Like, why do we have to go to the health food restaurant instead of Chick-fil-A? You've been fine with Chick-fil-A all these years. Why we got to go over here? They're going to have to figure out how to relate to you again. And that's okay. You'll have to figure out how to relate to others again as you make these choices as well. But know that in the long run, living by your own preferences and how you want to do your life will be so much more a benefit. And who knows, by your example, you could inspire other people to eat healthier, start exercising, get up earlier, read a book instead of watch TV, or whatever your thing is. You'll feel like an outsider sometimes. There will always be people who will do the things that you do. There are other situations that I'm in where the exact same things that make me feel like an outsider with this group of people totally make me fit in with this group of people. And the things that I do have in common with the first set of people, I may not necessarily have in common with the second set of people. So there's a give and take there. And as you find the people who are more like you, live the way that you want to live, you'll feel less like an outsider. But there is that transition point that can be really painful. It can be really discouraging as you make those changes. And as people question you, like, what? You don't want to go for a soda run? We go for a soda run every Friday. Like, well, I'm choosing not to drink soda anymore. Why are you doing that? Well, I just want to be healthier, whatever it is, whatever it is. Don't take the default settings. Nobody likes to buy something that's one size fits all or one size fits most. No, we don't like those things. We want something that fits us. So when it comes to our habits and our way of life, why would we choose a one size fits most approach? Why would we do the things that most people are doing because it's working for most people? But honestly, is it working for most people? Does eating fast food and staying up late and not exercising, is that really working? Is that working out? Probably not. When you make combinations like that, that is so detrimental to your health. And I'm not saying anything about not eating fast food or staying up late or not exercising. I have days where I eat Chick-fil-A. I have days where I stay up late. I have days where I don't exercise. It's the habit. It's the core. It's the way you live your life, not necessarily the outlier days, right? If you eat a microwave bean and cheese burrito for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day for the rest of your life, that is going to catch up to you. Now, I love myself a bean and cheese burrito, not so much frozen anymore. That was the college life. Moved on a little bit. So it's nothing against the burrito. It's about how you live your life on a day-to-day, your day-to-day habits. Don't choose those day-to-day habits based on a default. Don't choose it just because everybody else is choosing it. Choose it because you choose it. It is your preference. This is what you want to do with your time. This is what you want to do with your one and only life. This is how you want to treat your body. This is what you want. And when it's what you want, then it doesn't matter if you feel like an outsider for a few minutes, for a few hours. It doesn't matter. Yeah, you're right. I came home feeling a little bit down because I didn't connect. And that's what I was discouraged about. I didn't have that connection that I was hoping to find, hoping to have at that social event. I didn't have that connection. I wasn't down about my choices being different from their choices. Like, I like my choice. I do not want their choices because of who I am. Again, not saying bad or good, just saying preferences. And I was just sad that I didn't have that connection. But I will sacrifice that connection to others to have that connection with myself. To know, yeah, I didn't fit in. That's okay because I like what I'm doing. I like how I'm living. I like my habits. I like how I treat my body. I like that. That's so much more important and so much more powerful. So as you think about, as you reflect on this year, reflect on your default settings. And it's going to feel a little bit like there are other choices. Yes, there are other choices. And then you can experiment on them. As you go into the new year, don't just pick something and hope it's what you really want. Go into the new year deciding to experiment on different things. I wish I remember where I read this because it's been a great story. And I believe I've shared this on the podcast before, but I don't know exactly where. I read a story once about a guy who, to his friends and to his family, he seemed to be diet jumping. He was doing all the things, right? Like he was doing keto and he was doing paleo and he was doing vegan or vegetarian. He was trying all the things, right? And people just couldn't keep up. They're like, dude, I don't know what you eat these days. They felt on the outside, they felt like he was all over the place. Like, really, the guy could not commit. That's what everybody felt like. But what this guy was doing was so smart and really so amazing and so admirable to be able to like take on that. Yeah, people are going to think I'm a flake about this, but whatever. Because what he was actually doing was he was trying out all of these different diets for whatever length of time. I don't know, maybe he gave it 2 months, or 3 months, or 6 months. I don't remember. But he gave it a good amount of time. And as he followed those diets, he monitored and tracked what it did to his energy. He wanted to see what diets, what way of eating, what way of feeding himself gave him the most energy. So he started testing things. He just started trying stuff. That was his point. He just wanted to see what gave him the most energy. Amazing. Such a cool story. Because that's what we get to do too with our habits. We get to try it. When I started my early morning habit, I was like, okay, come hell or high water, I am doing this for 66 days straight, no matter what, no excuses. And at the end of those 66 days, I will reevaluate. If I want to, I will continue. If I decide it sucks, I will stop. At the end of those 66 days, if you listen to that podcast, day 67, I slept in and I felt like crap. So it turned out, for me personally, I loved the habit. I wanted it. I decided this was a lifestyle change that I wanted. And I continued it. I kept going because I didn't like the before and the after once I had done it enough. So go forth and try things, experiment with things. Know that people are going to give you a little, I don't know, head tilts and like, what the craps? And you didn't used to be like this. You're like, yeah, I know. I'm evolving. I'm changing. Yeah, we can still be friends. There are still things we connect on. Maybe it's just not this specific thing anymore. And that's fine. People will adjust as you move forward on your adventure. So there we go. Check your default settings. See if they're what you really, truly want. See if it's just what society tells you. See if it's just how you grew up, and find what truly fits you, what truly benefits you, what truly fuels you and feels good to you. And go do that. That's what I've got for you today. Thank you so much for joining me on today's podcast. I appreciate you. I send you my love. Yeah, that's all. Bye for now.